On Tuesday, the Citizen Redistricting Committee begins an 11-day, 8-meeting sweep around New Mexico to present and explain its newly released set of proposed maps for federal, state, and local political districts. You can access that full schedule and tune into live streams of those public hearings on our website, newmexicopbs.org. Now, Serge, let me start with you. Anything jump off the page to you in terms of any of those maps? I just want to ask a real broad question here because there's so many maps, so many things to get into, but was there one that really just kind of grabbed you?
Absolutely, Gene. You know, I'm an Albuquerque resident, and when I saw the map that wanted to put Albuquerque and Santa Fe and cabin these two places into one single district, I was a little bit surprised. And, you know, I understand it's one of many, and the idea is urban, put as many urban areas as possible. But first of all, I was curious as to how that could actually work numbers wise. But second, I thought it was frankly shocking.
What's the concern? I'm curious. What's your concern with that particular proposal? This, Uber CD1, that has just this narrow thing, but it's all urban, all packed with population.
Well, I was surprised more than anything. But when I unpack it a little bit, right, that is. There's a lot more to this than just the definition of who is urban, who is not urban. And these redistricting is always contentious, but historically has been a question of, trying to smash everybody possible, trying to put people who you might think the same into one particular district to dilute the power of the people who think that way. But there are also other aspects of this, right? Especially in urban, suburban, or rural rather divides. There's often a racial aspect that I think we need to be aware of. And those sorts of things can get ugly when you think about how we're redistricting. And so I'm aware of that and very concerned about ways that we use urban or rural as a proxy for other statements and any other sort of labeling.
That's why we love having you on the show, man. You just get underneath it. I like that answer a bunch. Tom, the Redistricting Committee will gather that public input before coming up with a final list of proposed maps for the legislature to vote on. And those final maps will be released on October 15th. All right, we have a date certain on that. This is obviously a new process for us here in New Mexico. What do you think about it so far? Do you think it's taking politics and partisanship out of the process from what you've seen so far?
Well, I think it gets more voices at the table, which I think is a huge success. Because when you look back 10 years ago, the public's input was really non-existent.
Thank you.
Now, because of the actions from the legislature, the outreach from the CRC, Citizen Redistricting Committee, you actually have the public has a chance to go and submit their own maps, which is really, it's light years in progress of getting the public involved. I think the maps that we've seen have been fascinating. There have been a lot of talks about vertical and horizontal maps for the congressional districts,
right?
And a lot of creative kind of, I won't call it gerrymandering because it's creative, districting right now because they're just providing options. And we've seen it from a number of different communities of interest. So that I think is a big success. To answer your question though, Gene, to partisanship, hopefully when the maps move from the CRC to the legislature, our collective hope is, and I have my firm works in this particular arena, is that we would hope that whatever the CRC develops is endorsed and moved on and approved by the legislature to the governor. Because I think when you get the elected leaders involved in the process, that's when you have the opportunity for some of that gerrymandering to take place.
Good points there. Martha, the committee has gone out of its way to collect input from tribes, Pueblos, and Navajo Nation in this process. And that comes after complaints that there was no Native American representation on the committee. Remember that when it first got going. Have they done enough so far to allay those concerns in your view?
I think they've gone a long way, Gene. I don't know if it will totally allay the concerns.
Okay.
For those watching who have not seen the web extra you did with the committee members, they should watch it because the committee is going out of its way. As Tom said, people can draw their own district, see how that would look, and mess around with the maps, if you will, on their own. And the real question, again, as Tom has already alluded to, is what is the legislature going to do when they get the recommendation?
Right.
They can go for it. They can throw it out and say, we don't like this. We're going to do something different. I would like to bring up another point that has already fell through the cracks again, but it's very important, and that is the districts that house prisons. And the prisoners in the prisons get counted in those districts, whether they lived there or not before they were incarcerated. They're now counted as part of that population.
Yes.
But the prisoners can't vote. So what is the net result? A smaller portion of the populace they've got a disproportionate share of the vote because their numbers were pumped up because of their prison populations. And I just want to read one that is totally outrageous. Santa Rosa is a host to the Guadalupe County Correctional Center. It has a total population of 2,850 incarcerated people, and 2,850 people, and incarcerated 585. That's over 20% of the population is incarcerated, but only 5 of those people in prison were actually from Santa Rosa.
Interesting.
So it gives you an idea of the distortion of the numbers that those folks, it's called prison gerrymandering.
Right.
It hasn't.
It's been around a long time, and yeah, that's an interesting anecdote there. Serge, Martha mentioned I did that Facebook Live on Wednesday this week with Edward Chavez. He's the chairman of the committee, as well as Brian Sanderoff of Research and Polling, and Lily Vitella Irvin. She's the committee's community liaison working with all the tribes. Now, they said 1,200 people took part in this first round of public hearings. Nothing to shake your fist at, but how do we get more people involved at this really crucial stage of the process, which is right now?
Yeah, I think 1,200 does sound like a lot until you compare it to the number of people in New Mexico. And I actually think their website and the little app they have, Districtor, I think it's called, that allows you to do your own. Like they should be sending that to every, putting that on Facebook and Twitter. It's a fun little game. I had a great time playing around with it, and just alerting people through that sort of interactive way might be effective. I think there is no one more respected, I think, than Justice Chavez for even-handedness and ability to do this, and his desire to do this right. And I think they are really making a huge step by having all these meetings. But I do think that they could amplify this, and I think through some non-traditional ways, and catch some folks who you might not think would be interested in the whole redistricting process through some of their really exciting uses of technology.
Tom, I got to go back to something in a circular way to something you mentioned earlier, but it's worth remembering the legislature changed the law that created the committee's scope of work, right? Originally, they would have made the final selection on how these maps are redrawn. Now they just make a recommendation, as you mentioned. But here's my question. Will this process, is it big enough? Is it, well known enough that lawmakers can't go off script, if you will? Does it create some kind of public pressure to not politicize the process, knowing that the public had a fairly firm hand in how this all came about?
Wow. Elected leaders politicizing processes. Let's not let that sink in. There is always the opportunity, to either justify the CRC, which I think it's great because when you look at the 1,200 folks who have participated in the first round and the second round, everybody has something to comment at this time, is a lot better than zero, that goose egg that we had 10 years ago. Hopefully the legislators, if they do make any adjustments, which I hope that they personally do not, because of that mandate from the CRC, I don't know. They might, but I would hope that
they might. But wouldn't that might include disrespecting a former Supreme Court judge? I mean, the reason Ed Chavez was chosen because he's an honest third broker here.
Yeah, Justice Chavez really needs to be applauded for all of his work. I mean, he and I worked together on the New Mexico First Redistricting Task Force, and just the way he and Judge Kennedy both guided that process. they both earned my respect. And Justice Chavez, he is a voice of reason. He is a nonpartisan, person in this very partisan process. So, I hope that when the CRC delivers the maps, that the legislators will look at it in mid to late December and say, you know what, the public has spoken. We go ahead and accept these and move them on to the governor.
Good points there. Time to move on to other issues, but we will be talking about redistricting again very soon. And be sure to get caught up on the work so far at nmpbs.org.